Upon seeing Ichigo defeated and lying motionless on the ground, Orihime and Chad rush toward him. Ichigo weakly warns them to stay back, but Chad attacks Askin with Brazo de Gigante. As Askin leaps back, Orihime and Chad suddenly fall to their knees, wondering why they can't stand. Askin reveals that they have entered his gift bad aka poison bath, and explains that while it may not be fatal, he can lower their tolerance to whatever he designates. The substance he has chosen is Reishi. In other words, they have been exposed to the dense Reishi of Varveld, causing Reishi poisoning. His power is called Lethal Dose. He typically defeats his enemies by controlling the fatal dose of whatever he designates, but to do that he needs to ingest a large amount of the substance. If it's blood, he needs to drink a lot. However, right now he's full from drinking too much cafe au lait, so he asks them to wait until he's hungry again. Suddenly, Yoruichi appears on a ledge behind him and comments on his strange words, noting that if Ichigo and the others can't move, why not just choke them instead? Askin asks if she's serious, remarking that Bambi said the same thing to him a long time ago. It made him cringe then, and it still makes him cringe now before kicking at her while asking if she could be any more insensitive. Dodging Askin's kick, Yoruichi asks if he believes his opponents are beneath him, only for Askin to claim that defeating an enemy in one's own style is what matters. Sticking to controlling the fatal dose is his style, and choking is a method suited for women like her and Bambi. Yoruichi activates Shunko and remarks that she doesn't know who this Bambi person is, but what Askin must be trying to say is that's how beautiful women do it. Askin asserts that both she and Bambi are beautiful, then summons his Heilig Bogen before proclaiming that a woman's worth isn't in her face, it's in whether she's stylish or not. Askin fires 2 Heilig File at Yoruichi, who dodges one before throwing the other back at him, hitting him in the shoulder. Stating that Askin seems like an interesting guy, but unfortunately they're in a rush. She activates her God of Thunder battle form and engulfs him in a massive blast. As her Shunko, Raijin Senkei levels the nearby buildings, Yoruichi rescues Orihime from the gift bad and tells her to heal herself. When she's calmed down, she should heal Ichigo and Chad, and then they can move ahead. When Orihime asks about Yoruichi, she tells her not to worry. She'll be on her way after confirming Askin's death. However, she is interrupted when Yushiro attempts to hug her from behind, only for her to casually dodge. As Yushiro bounces back and tries again, Yoruichi attempts to catch him, but he moves behind her and hugs her. Yoruichi responds by headbutting him from the back of her head. Yoruichi questions what he's doing there, as she thought he was with Urahara and the others. Yushiro claims that he was, but with so many captains with them, he figured he'd come help her instead. Yoruichi sarcastically remarks that Yushiro has gotten stronger since the last time she saw him, only for him to believe she's being sincere. He starts crying, saying he's so happy she noticed, and claims he really has gotten stronger. Yoruichi remarks that Yushiro is too stupid to recognize sarcasm before they are interrupted by Askin, who tells them to stop with the sob story. Yoruichi notes that Askin wasn't paying close enough attention. Just because a child is crying doesn't mean it's a sob story. Askin responds that if it isn't, then they should stop with their non-sob story. Seeing Ichigo getting to his feet behind her, Yoruichi notes that he has recovered quickly. She tells him to go ahead and assures him she'll catch up. Ichigo agrees and tells her to be careful. Yoruichi questions who he thinks he's talking to, as if she'd lose. As Ichigo runs away with Orihime and Chad, Askin comments that they got through and His Majesty is going to be angry with him. However, Yoruichi tells him to relax, saying that Yhwach won't be angry because they'll take down both him and Askin. When Askin dismissively refers to Yoruichi's technique as Raijin whatever thing, Yushiro angrily corrects him, saying it's Raijin Senkei. If Askin is going to insult his sister, he'll have to deal with him. Askin addresses Yushiro as a girl and asks if the young lady wants to fight. He warns that she can come at him barehanded, but he will use his bow. Yushiro leaps at Askin, yelling that he's not a girl. Askin apologizes, but before he can say anything else, Yushiro punches him in the face multiple times. As Askin comments that he's strong, Yushiro replies that, of course he is, before proudly proclaiming that he is Yushiro Sakimune Shihoin, the 23rd head of the Shihoin family. There's no way he would lose to a Quincy like him. Yushiro activates his Shunko and uses unrivaled explosive flame, engulfing Askin in an enormous explosion. Yoruichi asks Yushiro what he was really thinking. Does he realize what could have happened if she hadn't weakened Askin first? As Yushiro apologizes to her, Yoruichi says maybe she should commend him for mastering the Shunko she just taught him. In her mind, Yoruichi wonders how Yushiro could have learned it so quickly, and yet it's already that powerful. Just then, they are stunned as Askin, having survived the attack, asks why they look surprised. Weren't they listening? He reiterates that he can control the fatal dose of a substance he designates by ingesting a large amount of it. He thanks them for pumping him with enough spiritual pressure to almost defeat him, and declares that now they can't defeat him with their spiritual pressure. Noticing Askin's burns disappearing, Yoriichi asks if his wounds are healing. Askin replies that of course they are. The fatal dose amount going up means he's become immune to their attacks. Seeing Yoriichi's surprised expression, Askin comments that he doesn't think she has time to be shocked. He tells them they'd better hurry, or not only will they be unable to defeat him, but they won't even be able to scratch him. Yushiro rushes toward Askin and attempts another Shunko attack. Yoriichi tells him to stop. However, as Yushiro lands the punch on Askin's abdomen, the attack dissipates. Askin reminds Yushiro that he has already acquired immunity to that attack, then shoots him through the chest with 3 Heilig Pfeil. As Yoriichi rushes over to the collapsed Yushiro, Askin informs her that it's too late. It took longer than he expected for them to comprehend his ability, claiming that's fatal. As parts of Silburn fall away due to the clash inside it, the pieces fall toward Askin but miss him. Lying on the ground, Askin comments that he can't believe he didn't have to move a step to survive all that. He feels himself moving farther away from death. If immunity is the ultimate way of staving off death, maybe he has immunity to thank for this as well. He asks Yoriichi for her opinion. Yoriichi ignores Askin as she struggles to stay upright after being blasted with a gift ball. She remarks that she wasn't listening. She thought Askin was just talking to himself. Askin comments that it feels more like she couldn't listen, then explains that he struck her with a hybrid gift ball of reishi, oxygen, and nitrogen. He claims that she doesn't have the luxury of listening to someone talking to themselves and expresses surprise that Yoriichi is still alive in her condition. Yoriichi replies that she doesn't know what to think about it, saying that after all that fiddling with the fatal dosage, she's not sure why he adjusted it enough to keep her barely alive. Askin claims she got it wrong. He did the best he could, anybody else would be dead by now. He asks her not to accuse him of being soft, just to ignore the fact that she's a monster. It makes him sad. Yoriichi looks at the badly injured, fallen Yushiro, knowing he won't last much longer, but she can't heal him in her current condition. However, Askin gets right in front of her, telling her not to bother. He doesn't know what she's up to, but she's close enough to dying that she didn't even notice him closing in on her. He claims that no matter what she tries, he's confident he has the initiative, and he thinks that's pretty fatal. Suddenly, Urahara arrives, touches Yoriichi's butt, and comments that it's wedged in there rather fatally, causing her to kick him in the chin. Urahara is annoyed and asks Yoriichi why she would kick him. He came to help. Yoriichi shouts, asking what made him think she wouldn't, and tells Urahara to look at her face, not her behind. Urahara apologizes, acknowledging that perhaps the expression wedged in was a bit vulgar. However, Yoriichi claims that this isn't why she kicked him and tells him to stop touching her butt while apologizing. Askin recognizes Urahara, saying he's not the one he wanted to see. Urahara remarks that it's an honor that Askin knows him. Askin comments that Urahara probably isn't aware of this, but he's one of the people His Majesty designated as a special threat. Urahara responds that he doesn't know what to say. It's an honor, but Yhwach is giving him too much credit. Then, feeling Yoriichi's butt yet again, he causes her to leap into the air, shocking Askin, who wonders what Urahara did. How is Yoriichi able to move? Did he undo his death dealing? Realizing that Urahara is exactly what he's been told, Askin recalls that the 5 special threats were chosen because of their incalculable aspects: Ichigo Kurosaki's potential, Zaraki Kenpachi's combat strength, Ichibei Hyosube's wisdom, Sosuke Aizen's spiritual pressure, and Urahara's incalculable tricks. Askin notes that no matter how deceptive someone tries to be, Urahara will always outsmart them, calling him the consummate schemer. He wonders why he always ends up matched against guys like him. With that, a mark with the God of Thunder 3 tattoo appeared on Yoriichi's beautiful butt, prompting her to ask Urahara what he injected into her. Urahara merely claims that it's a secret. Yoriichi guesses it's some kind of immuno-enhancing agent he cooked up while eavesdropping on them. Urahara commends Yoriichi, saying she's clever for accurately assessing the situation, though he asserts that it was rushed, so it won't last long. When Yoriichi asks how long it will last, Urahara replies that it will last about 5 minutes. Yoriichi asserts that that'll be enough. She activates Shunko, Raijin Senkei again, but Urahara stops her and suggests she activate another technique. Yoriichi immediately refuses. Urahara tries to explain and negotiate with her, but she states that she will never take on that half-baked, grotesque form ever again. However, Urahara says it's unfortunate. He hates to do this, but he'll just have to force her. Just then, both Yoriichi and Urahara dodge Heilig Pfeil that Askin fires at them. Yoriichi rushes toward Askin, but he swiftly dodges her strike and comments that it's great she's so excited to move again. He then punches her in the stomach, bringing her to her knees. He questions if she really thinks she can beat him just because she's recovered a bit, reminding her that he hit her with a poison ball when she was at her best. From a little distance away, Urahara holds up a piece of paper, saying that when he flips it, she'll be transformed. Urahara flips the paper, causing a massive explosion around Yoruichi, which pushes Askin back. Askin looks in shock at Yoruichi, who now has cat features with lightning emitting from her. He asks what is going on with her, but receives no answer. Urahara tells him that the name of the technique is Shunko Raiju Senkei, Thunderous Black Cat Battle Princess. Askin wonders why Urahara is answering for her, but quickly realizes that she cannot understand what he's saying in this form. Suddenly, Yoruichi leaps into the air and confronts Askin, slashing him in the shoulder before he can react. Yoruichi throws Askin through several buildings, but Askin quickly flies back up, wondering why he's getting injured. He should be immune to her spiritual pressure already. There's no way a Soul Reaper's spiritual pressure can change. Urahara then gets behind him and comments that she's moody. He asks Askin if he knows how they say cats are fickle, explaining that when Yoruichi's in Kokubyo Senki form, it shows in her spiritual pressure. Pointing at Yoruichi, who's licking herself, Urahara states that she's not chasing Askin now because she's simply not in the mood. She's moody to begin with, but when she's in that form, she's even worse, and her spiritual pressure is directly affected by it. It's almost like somebody else's spiritual pressure. As Yoruichi returns and hits Askin, sending him flying, Urahara asks if Askin knows how the flu spreads every year, explaining that it's not even a new strain, just a slight change in antigenicity, and the same type of strain from last year spreads again. He tells Askin that his body can keep building immunity, but with a slight change, it's all for nothing. Sure, his immunity acquisition rate is astoundingly fast. When he's attacked by an enemy by reflex, he analyzes their spiritual pressure and builds immunity to it at an alarming speed. 1 minute and he can nullify any attack. But even that's not fast enough. Not against Yoruichi's spiritual pressure when she's in Kokubyo Senki, because it changes 48 times per second. Yoruichi engulfs Askin in a large blast of spiritual pressure, sending him flying into the ground far away. With a stroke of lightning, Yoruichi lands on a rooftop and Urahara calls her over to play, saying he has some Yoruichi nip. She flies into him and licks him affectionately before resting on his lap. Urahara reflects that Yoruichi's form drawbacks are that only he can control her, and only her mood can bring her back. Then again, she's still adorable even in this form, so he doesn't mind it at all. As Yoruichi begins moaning in pain, Urahara realizes that it's almost 5 minutes. The effects of the immuno-enhancer are about to wear off. Urahara commends Yoruichi for her performance against Askin before noting that all that's left is to drain the poison out of her. He tells Yoruichi that he's going to look for Askin's body and make sure he's dead. Suddenly, Urahara, Yoruichi, and the surrounding area are engulfed by Askin's massive gift ball. Urahara looks in shock as Askin explains that it's the largest poison ball he can create. However, Askin realizes that Urahara is more concerned about the way he looks. As he lands on the ground in his Quincy Volstendig form, Askin announces that it's called God's Taster, admitting that the name is not cool. The fight is not over yet. Tap this image to keep the action going.